Hey everyone, welcome to the AWS Tech Bytes. I'm Krish, and today we'll be discussing about the AWS S3 preventive security measures. And as we all know that Amazon S3 is an object storage which basically offers a very effective industry-leading scalability, data availability, security, and performance. So today we'll be discussing about certain security best practices which we can always keep in mind to ensure that the security of our S3 buckets. So why the security measures are very important? The main reason why these are very important because team, every year the number of attacks to this kind of storages are increasing day by day. So we have to make sure that our storage and our data is completely safe. So first of all, team, the key point is that ensure the use of proper policies and not publicly accessible. So first thing is that team, you have to make sure that your bucket is basically not having a public access and watch your permission you're giving to all the object and the bucket also. And basically in every bucket, we have something called as a bucket policies. Like bucket policy in the sense means team, we have a policy which is basically in the permission section of every bucket where we can define who can access to the bucket and who can basically not. So ensure that we use the proper mechanism called as bucket policies to make sure that our bucket is safe from any kind of unauthorized access. And also have to keep in mind, team, there is a word called as ACL, which most people may have heard of it, but still ACL is an old way of securing the Amazon S3. So always use a proper bucket policies for that. The second thing is that team, we have to implement the principle of least privilege. What is the principle of least privilege? So for a person to do his job, what is the bare minimum requirement he is having? Like for example, I want to basically access a particular object in a particular bucket. So what is the bare minimum permission required for me to access that bare minimum object that in that particular bucket? So give the least privilege. That means that the privilege is basically required to specifically give access to one object. That is what we call as a least privilege. And then team, we have something called as a use IAM roles for whenever possible. So basically what happens is team, if you want to have access to Amazon S3 bucket, you can always use the concept of access keys and secret keys. Like we can basically pass on to the application access key and secret key, and that using that the application can access my S3 bucket. But the thing is that if you basically use a normal user account with the access key and secret key for accessing this S3 bucket, it can always make you in trouble. That is why team, use the concept of IAM roles. When you basically go for the concept of IAM roles, what happens is that team, in the concept of IAM roles, we have a mechanism where the AWS service can access the other AWS service or resource without passing any new credentials, like passing any credentials to the user specifically. So basically, it's like a user account for your instances, or it's like a user account, but still there is no credentials I'm passing to a human user. So it basically ensures more security for our access to the storage. And then we have something called as a MFA delete. So MFA delete is a very effective option team, which most people don't care about, but it's very important. So like the same way we enable the multi-factor authentication on the normal identity users, we can enable a MFA to prevent accidental bucket deletions. Like for example, I'm having a bucket which is having some sensitive contents. So if you want to basically delete that bucket, you have to provide a MFA token which is basically generated. If the MFA delete is not enabled, any user with the password with the proper privilege can delete the content inside the S3. And the next thing is team, we have something called as a encryption. So basically encryption is always the key control when you go for a public cloud platform. That is always I say. But still, one thing we have to know is that there is two kind of encryptions we are having. We have a client-side encryption and we are having a server-side encryption. So when you basically say the word called as client-side encryption, what does it mean by the team? Client-side encryption means that we are encrypting your data before I upload it to the Amazon S3 or basically the cloud platform. That is what we call as client-side encryption. And if I say the word server-side encryption, I upload my data first and then I do the encryption in the cloud platform itself. That is what we call as server-side. And Amazon S3 supports basically two types of server-side encryption, that is SSE S3 and SSE KMS. So we will basically discuss about this in a more detailed way in upcoming lectures. But still, I feel like the SSE KMS is the most effective way you can protect your data using the encryption. And the next thing is, team, we have a mechanism called as a cross-region replication. So when we say the word called as cross-region replication, what happens is, team? So Even if we know that Amazon S3 stores our data in multiple geographically diverse availability zones, we have to make sure that if you have a cross-region replication enabled, it basically ensures that your data is replicated to different distant AWS region, so that even if something goes wrong, still your data is having a backup there. It's more safe actually. And finally, team, we have a concept called as VPC endpoints. So a VPC endpoint is a logical entity. Like for example, usually what we do is if you want to basically give access to an Amazon service, let's say I have an Amazon account, I want to access a bucket in a different account. So usually I make the communication through the public internet. Rather than making a communication through public internet, I can establish a communication through the AWS network to the uh, Amazon S3 using a concept of VPC endpoint. We are having different kind of endpoints, like we are having gateway endpoint. We are having a uh, interface endpoint, but endpoints can be a very good option for securing the Amazon S3. So we'll discuss more about this in very much detailed upcoming lectures, team. But still, these are the key points which we have to understand while we are talking about the S3 security mechanisms. So see you in the next lecture. Thank you.